Hey everybody, I just wanted to talk about chance moves because I personally think they're really cool. Random moves are personally my favorite in any game, so yeah. So technically, there's tons of moves that actually are random in Pokemon. Any move that has an element of accuracy is random because it's RNG based, but there's a small number of moves that actually are more random in the typical random sense, and I personally think some of them are surprisingly useful. Almost all of them are very gimmicky, and really the only thing they got going for them is if you can't predict what you're doing, your opponent can't either. But either ways, I do want to, just talk about all of them because there is such a small number of them. And so, let's start with the first one. Hidden Power's the first one because it kind of feels random and there is a certain element of randomness to it. You can predict what it's going to be because, if you know the HP, attack, special defense, and you divide it by a certain number, then you can get what type it is, and, there's your answer. But the part before that is very random, and, if you don't want to go through that and you don't want to talk to, the actual Pokemon daycare center people, then it can feel random. Plus, I wanted to include it because it's one of my favorite Pokemon Unknown's move. Second is Assist, because there is a certain element of randomness to it. Of course, you can kind of decide what it's going to be, sort of. So it has some uses since you can control the randomness, because it's only going to pick from your Pokemon party, and it won't pick moves that take, more than 2 turns, or that usually are protection kind of based. But honestly, it's kind of a boring move. The Acupressure's probably the most useful one out of any of them. I mean, it's very gimmicky and very cheesy, but I do actually see it being used, usually in setups of if a Pokemon's already had its evasiveness raised, such as Drapion, and then you get a substitute, and then you can just spam this and start raising random stats, and really you can make a Pokemon that can just kind of go on a tear no matter who it is. Present is the signature move of Delibird and Iron Bundle, and it's kind of weird because it goes 40, 30, 20, 10 chance, and it has 40 base power, then 80 base power, then heals the opponent by 20%, and then a base power of 120, and not very useful for Delibird. Iron Bundle, I think you could possibly make the argument because he is really fast and he is really strong, and so in some circumstances, it's almost good no matter what it is other than healing the opponent. Magnitude is probably my favorite random-based move, and in its first appearance, it actually would just change which magnitude it was each time, but then in generations that were to come, it actually then became a list that, you could predict with both ends having the 5% chance, and as you got closer to the middle, it'd be 30% chance. And so it ranged from 10 base power at magnitude 4 to 150 base power at magnitude 10. And so I really loved the move. I would spam it every single time I had it. I think it's great. And to round out the list, Clefable appears here again, being the first full evolution to use Metronome. And Metronome, it has the least restrictions out of any of this. It's literally just almost any move Clefable can think of, and that's just what pops up. And I think it can be pretty funny. I've seen people pull it out and they just get something like Core Enforcer, so I truly think it's a great move. Even if it's bad, I still think it's great because it's, truly random. But I guess I shouldn't make this too long, so thank you and have a great day.